I'm U.S. Senator John Boozman, and this is the elephant in the room.
Welcome to The Elephant in the Room. I'm your host, Cyrus Pearson.
I'm your co-host, Sophie Delquier.
And our guest today is U.S. Senator John Boozman from the great state of Arkansas. And Sophie, you had a kind of degree of separation Arkansas connection recently, right?
Yes, my boyfriend just went duck hunting in Arkansas.
Okay. And we kind of talk about that in today's podcast, but you said you'd get back to the senator with where it was. So let's let the listeners know right now.
It was in Stuttgart.
Okay.
I don't know that I'm saying that correctly.
Okay. And where is this bird now?
This bird is frozen in our freezer, ready to be consumed.
Sure, it's going to be delicious.
I'm sure it will be. It's a free-range, wild, yummy duck.
Okay, let's get on to the podcast you're all waiting for. Here's the senator. Senator, you do sit on a very important committee and are working on an extremely important piece of legislation, and we will get to that, but let's get comfortable first and start off with this. A lot of people don't realize some of the contributions from Arkansas, and I was looking at the internet, and this was really interesting and unexpected for me. Apparently, there's someone called a cheese dip historian, and they traced the dish to the Mexico Chiquito restaurant in Little Rock in 1935. Other experts claim this was invented in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and controversially, some claim Texas. What do you know about cheese dip?
Well, cheese dip definitely was invented in Arkansas.
Strong
Wow,
stance
you
there.
all are already blowing my mind.
Sophie did not expect you to have an answer to that.
And, you know, it was a couple Congresses ago that we had a contest with Texas in the Senate luncheon. Every week we have a luncheon. And we soundly defeated the Texans. So we're very, very proud of that. So when not only was it invented there, but when you actually do the taste test, Texas versus Arkansas, then Arkansas won.
Wow.
Who was involved in this taste test?
Senator Cruz.
Okay.
Wow.
So you had an actual taste test, a blind taste test. Arkansas came out on top.
Arkansas came out on top.
Okay, and if there's any question, the World Cheese Dip Championship is held in Arkansas every year.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and, you know, I don't often get to quote Culture Cheese Magazine, but they do say Arkansas versus Texas is a longstanding source of tension between the two states. And although it sounds like we settled it today, I don't think the tension has completely gone away.
I don't think so. I think that there'll be continued tension as we go forward, but, you know, it sounds like we've got a great chance of continuing to dominate.
Let's get into a little of your backstory and how you eventually got into politics, but let's talk about something that you're probably pretty well known for. You played football for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
I did, back in the old days.
Now, you were a linebacker for listeners who can't see you, which should be everybody listening to this. Linebackers, they are tough, they're smart, and they are athletic.
I don't know how smart they are, but...
So you'll take the tough and the athletic.
You know, it's interesting. I was recruited as a linebacker, but I was huge for that position as a freshman.
Okay.
So I weighed 218 pounds. We played Texas for the national championship, and that was the game that Nixon was at. You know, Billy Graham gave the invocation. Big deal.
Wow.
I think Texas's defensive line only averaged 219 pounds.
Really?
And so the average weight gain, you know, by the time you get in the weight room and stuff, is about 40 pounds at Arkansas. So I got bigger and wound up as an offensive left tackle. I was just like the guy, for those of you that have seen the movie The Blind Side, I was just like that guy, only I never got any better.
We had Coach Tuberville in here. He is the senator from Alabama, and he was in The Blind Side.
He's an Arkansas guy, too.
Yeah, he mentioned it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, his favorite movie is The Blind Side.
Is that right?
It is. It is.
Played football at a small college in Arkansas. He's a good athlete.
Yeah, and I think he got to start coaching. I could be wrong here, and we just recorded this, but I think coaching girls basketball at a high school there.
Well, my great claim to fame at Arkansas was that the last 2 years I was there, Joe Gibbs was the offensive line coach. So he was there for 2 years. That was the last 2 years I was there. Myself and two or three others frustrated him so much. We were so uncoachable that
Really?
he actually left college football and went to the pros.
No way.
No
That's
way.
your version
And
of
I
the
tell
story,
him,
I'm sure.
I tell him, you should give me some of your retirement package, and that's the truth. If he were here, he would nod his head and say, "That's right."
So Joe Gibbs went on to coach the Washington Redskins, which I was born into as my football team.
Won
And
many
so,
Super Bowls.
yeah, especially during my heyday. I've been waiting a long time, and they haven't regained their glory yet. You also were under Frank Broyles, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, for those who don't know, he was with the University of Arkansas for a long time, 1958 to 1976, and his record was 149 wins, only 62 losses, and 6 ties. He has the most wins, most coach games of any head coach in program history there.
No, he was a great coach, and really well thought of throughout the country. Back then we were in the Southwest Conference. We had a great rivalry with Texas, and just was his claim to fame. I think the thing that was his strength was being able to attract good people around him. I mentioned Joe Gibbs was there.
Oh, yeah.
Raymond Berry was, he was a great wide receiver that was also a great coach. He probably had more assistants come through his program than any other coach. In fact, there's an award that's given now to the outstanding assistant coach, and it's the Frank Broyles Award, based on the fact that these guys would come through and then do great things. Jimmy Johnson was there. I mean, the list goes on.
Wow.
And on.
Wow.
Hayden Fry.
Big names.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, surrounded by
Doug
all of
Dickey.
these, legends. I mean, you must have, learned a lot. I'm curious, what is an important lesson that you think you learned from football that you can take with you, every day in your life, whether it's personal or here in the Senate, and that other people might learn?
Well, I think there's all kinds of lessons that you learn in that situation. One of them is team, working as a team. You learn pretty quickly that you work together and you can do great things, in these programs, and you have to work together or you don't. It simply just doesn't happen. The other thing is just overcoming adversity. And it's hard out there. It's a lot of work, at that level. And so, being able to hang in when things aren't going right, and both in the classroom and on the field. So lots of building character, and that's really what it's all about. You can get a lot done if you just show up and hang in there, day after day, and that's really what athletics is all about.
Great advice. So many lessons you can learn from sports.
There's one more thing that I will say. Your staff gave me a little teaser, but I think one of your coaches said this to you, and I really, really liked this quote. There are 2 types of people in this world, givers and takers. Live your life as a giver and not a taker.
Yeah, no, that was a constant theme, and you think of college football being at a good program at that time. That is all you talk about is winning and losing. You don't ever really talk about winning. You talk about doing the little things, and that's the other thing you learn is you do the little things, and then it falls into place. But you're right. The other part is just being people of character and being a person that's a giver and not a taker.
Now, we will get off of football. There is a lot more to cover. But, I mean, this is
one of the few things I know a lot about as far as experience.
This is a big part of your life, right? I mean, Razorback football, it did not end when you stopped playing.
It's a blessing. I mean, back then was kind of the heyday of college football, I think, and there wasn't a lot else going on. You didn't have all of the video games and this and that, and so every even now with us only having one, University of Arkansas is the primary program. You can root for Arkansas State. They don't play each other, so there's no rivalry. Mm-hmm. And so, as a young kid, seeing your heroes play every Saturday and then actually getting to participate was, that was a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal in Arkansas right now. We got an employee from Arkansas here, and a week does not go by. He's been here almost 2 decades, and he has not mentioned Razorback football that entire time.
No, he's a great fan.
Let's talk about what you did after college. You got into optometry?
I'm an optometrist. I'm an eye doctor by training. I tell people I like to be introduced as an eye doctor. That's a respectable profession. I think
as opposed to a politician.
As opposed to, being a senator or a congressman, we're at 17 or 18% approval rating.
Right, yeah. It's
friends, family, and the people that work for you.
Well, what led to that passion for vision?
Well, it's interesting. My brother was an eye surgeon, an ophthalmologist, and so he decided to get into ophthalmology. I was actually pre-dental in college, and he said, think about going the optometry route, think about going the eye route, and if you do, then we can practice together. And so he was 4 years older, and not only a brother, but actually a very, very good friend. Mm. And so we wound up doing that, and got through at the same time, and practiced together for a couple decades, 23, 24 years. So.
You piqued my interest because you were into dentistry. Did you mind? I always have this question when I go to the dentist, and we'll get back to the vision in a minute, but did you mind getting in people's mouths and doing things?
Well, I didn't get that far.
Oh, okay.
So no.
I mean, it just seems like the most medieval profession. They're still using hammers and needles and pliers.
Yeah.
I experience that when I go, but like I said, I went a different route, so I got into people's eyes first.
Okay, all right.
Which feels more delicate, less intrusive.
I needed to test the sadistic level here. Okay, all right. Okay, so you got in.
It's not so delicate when somebody comes in with something really big in their eye, though.
That's true. So have you seen something like that before?
Oh, no, for sure.
Oh, wow.
So we had 5 optometrists and 5 ophthalmologists at surgery centers. So we were blowing and going. But yeah, those kind of accidents happen all the time.
Wow. Wow. What's the craziest thing you've seen in someone's eyeball?
Probably a nail.
Wow. That's terrible. Did they lose their vision?
Yes,
wow.
in that eye.
Wow.
That's a difficult thing to overcome, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe, I think probably my brother was able to preserve partial vision.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That's what you work to do.
How big did your...
How big was the nail?
Yeah. How big was that nail? How much? People want to know, how big a nail does it take?
It's just, you're in a situation where, and that's really the nice thing about doing those kind of things, is you're working with people, you're helping people over, most of the time it's routine. And, but, occasionally you've got situations like that, or you're dealing with somebody that's maybe got shingles in their eye or this or that. Those are serious problems. Most of it is not. And like I said, that's a good thing. And the other thing that we had a variety of different specialists. So you could push people in different directions and know that they were going to get the best care that was available.
Did you do styes?
We did do styes.
I had a sty for
I can
a year
help
and a
you
half.
with that. You should have called
I
me.
wish I would have known. I would be talking to people, and I'd finish things, and I'd be like, and that's the secret to the world. And it'd be like 5 minutes, and they'd look at me, and they'd be like, is that a sty in your eye? What's wrong with your eyeball? So distracting. I mean, every day I'm like thankful that's gone. Next time, sir, I'm coming to you. Let's talk about that and your experience as a small business owner and you being able to relate to that type of thing. How did that business go for you?
Well, I think it really does make a difference when you're here serving, having been in the real world.
Absolutely.
And, being faced with, increased insurance prices, increased just across the board. When we talk about healthcare, being a healthcare provider, but like I say, being on the other end of that, you're in a situation, maybe your health insurance premiums on your employees, and we worked hard to help with those, goes up 10 or 15%. Where's that money coming from? And so not only that, but just all of the different practice costs, and then the government programs, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, with them not keeping up with inflation. So, and then just all of the other things that you have to do regarding permitting and things as a small business person. It's tough in the real world.
I mean, and it's not only the business. I mean, you have the personnel and the people that you're paying to take care of.
No, that's exactly right. And I think we had about 75 people that worked for us. So, that's not the biggest place in the world.
It's not the smallest either.
But it's not the smallest, and really, really felt like they were family, and you do want to take care of them.
And you've done some good things with this, right?
How do you mean?
I will lead you to the water here and have you drink. So I've read that you've provided care to children with vision difficulty on mission trips to Costa Rica and Haiti, as well as the Arkansas communities. I think you helped found a low vision program at the Arkansas School for the Blind. Can you talk about some of those things?
Well, you want to give back, and I really enjoyed doing those kind of things, and regarding the low vision, most people that are blind have a lot of usable vision, and so it's a big deal. You think about it. You go to the store, and if you can read a price tag, if we can magnify it, make it big enough that you can actually see a price tag, that's really a huge help as you're shopping. These are things that those of us that are sighted and have good vision, you just take that for granted. So with the use of various magnifiers, we could take young people, Braille readers, but also help them use the vision that they had to the best extent that they could to make their life a little bit easier.
We actually hired a blind video editor one time, and he had his face about 2 inches from the screen. And we didn't realize that he was blind when we had hired him. And I went ahead and taught him just like I would anyone else. It turned out he was the best video editor we ever had on staff.
No, like I say, that's really, when you think about that, it doesn't match up.
Yeah.
But using the vision, he might have been blind from the aspect of not having a full field of vision.
Sure.
Maybe his field was very narrow. Like looking through a toilet paper roll, something like that, and then you've got a very small field of view, but again, was able to use that field of view to work really hard to maximize that. So there's all kinds of things that, with a little bit of help, people are able to succeed.
Yes.
Just things like being able to pour a cup of coffee. I mean, all of these things that not only do they help people, regarding reading and things like that, but their ability to be self-sufficient, be able to stay in their homes, things like that, is really very, very helpful. It's a good thing.
I'm sorry to take so much of your time, but while we're on the topic, do you still follow developments in the industry?
I do. I actually have kept until the last 2 years, actually did all the continuing education and things like that.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah. Is there anything coming down the path? I've seen glasses that will...
it's remarkable. There's just all kinds of stuff that are coming out. The technology there is like everything else. So it's a good story, and it's only going to continue to get better. A lot of the things that we fought with that we couldn't do a whole lot with, we're starting to have success with. We all know people that have had cataract surgery that's a 20-minute deal now. When we first started, that was something that you spent 2 or 3 days in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And couldn't move your head. And then wore the big old thick glasses that came with that. So now, like I said, it's a 15-minute procedure, and you're seeing almost immediately.
Oh, that's great news. Now, you started this with your brother. Is that the state senator, Fay Boozman?
Yes.
And did he get into politics before you as well?
He did. He was a state senator and actually ran for the Senate.
Okay. And you were the one?
But I was totally apolitical.
You were apolitical?
I hadn't really been to Washington until I got elected. So I think I was here for like 10 hours for a fundraiser or something. So
the skies are better in Arkansas, so why would you?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We were talking before the show, and you can definitely see the skies.
There's lots better in Arkansas besides the skies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, the cliched question, well, then how did you get involved in politics and become a United States Senator?
I was really involved, not in politics, but just in the community. So I was on the school board, very active there. I had three daughters that were in public school and just wanted to be helpful. And we had an excellent school system, and, didn't get in it to try and change the school system, just to continue the good work that they were doing. And so on the fair board, this and that, like I say, just very interested in the community.
And so when you got up here, what was your impression from somebody who was apolitical to being right in the heart of the swamp, some people call it?
Well, I don't know that any of us would run if you actually knew what you were getting into. It's difficult, and probably the worst part I think about the job is the travel.
Yeah.
Just back and forth. It's tough on families being gone all the time. Those kind of things. But the other side of it, when I was first elected, I was in the House. I was in the House for 9 years. But you get to know people and really people on both sides well. And I mean, I've always approached things that you actually want to get something done, result. And so you can always find, people like that to get those kind of things accomplished.
Now, you talked about the personal sacrifice it takes to serve up here. A lot of people may not realize that. Let's talk about your marriage. You actually married your high school sweetheart?
I did.
And
We
you're
started
still
dating when I
married?
was a junior in high school. I was 16. And so we dated for 5 years and then got married after college. So, yeah.
So what's the secret of success? I think people would want
Well,
to know.
I think the secret of success is really feeling like the vows that you made mean something. You're stuck with each other.
So it's that
So, yeah, you might as well get along.
it's that early groundwork. Make sure they're the right one right away.
I believe in kind of simple truths.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Somebody asked Billy Graham, the great evangelist wife, if she ever thought about divorcing her husband. And she said no, but I went to bed many times thinking I was going to kill him.
Oh, my
love it.
goodness. It's unfortunate how many people can relate to that. So, Senator, you came up here to make a difference. You are the ranking member of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, which means you are the highest member in your party. And you've got Mitch McConnell on there. You've got Chuck Grassley in your committee. This is a big deal, isn't it?
Well, it is a big deal because of the fact of what it represents. And it represents the farm community. But even more than important than that, I think, is it represents rural America. In Arkansas, we've got 75 counties, 53 of them lost population. 53% of the counties in America lost population. And so when you get outside of any town of any size, well, first of all, the thing I've learned, we're doing a lot of listening sessions in different states right now, but the thing I've learned is agriculture is usually number one regarding the number one GDP producer. And that holds true. I was in North Carolina, recently, Nebraska. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's about 25% of Arkansas's economy. It's about 25% of those states' economy. But when you get outside of any town of any size, it's probably 85 or 90%. It's all that's left because we've lost our manufacturing. Farming is rural America. So the committee's important. Getting a farm bill is important. As some of those on the Intelligence Committee would say that food security is national security. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the Farm Bill, and that's something that comes up every 5 years. And so that is something that you are working on currently. Tell us why the Farm Bill is such a big deal. I mean, you just mentioned food security is national security, but why is the Farm Bill such a big deal?
Well, there's a number of different components to it. We talk a lot about climate and things like that, which is important. Making sure that we have the cleanest air, that our soils are healthy, that our rivers and streams, our water is healthy, all of those things. But, you do that through research. And so we can be very pleased with the fact that through the Farm Bill, through the research, our productivity on the land has gone up tremendously. But what we're having to put into the land, the fertilizer and things like that, has remained constant or actually decreased a little bit. So that's how you do things is through, research, getting best practices out. So there's all kinds of reasons besides just growing food, growing it in a way that is is environmentally the best, and then also is good for the farmer because it makes them more productive.
Mm-hmm.
We just had Cindy Hyde-Smith, the senator from Mississippi, on, and she said, to me, the Farm Bill in the Agriculture Committee is probably the most important thing on Capitol Hill. How do you see it?
No, I think that's an accurate depiction, especially coming from a state like Mississippi, Arkansas. But most states are like that. You know, most states, again, when you get outside of any town of any size. I was in Nebraska last week. You've got 2 population centers there, and then basically it's very, very rural. So for a lot of America, it is crucial to making it such that our farmers can go to the bank, be able to borrow the money that they need because they've got the safety net underneath them. They've got the risk management tools that they need to continue on. And we're so blessed we've got the safest, cheapest food supply of any place in the world. We take that for granted. But, in fact, we're seeing what food inflation does. What does that do to somebody on a fixed income, somebody that's trying to live on $1,400 a month or so on Social Security, our single moms.
Sure.
This is... So it's a very, very important thing.
So let's talk about veterans issues. Go ahead, Sophie.
Sure. So I know that this is something that you're passionate about. And one of the reasons maybe is because you grew up in a military family. And one of my first questions is, growing up in a military family, did you move around a lot like most military families, or what was that like?
Well, we did and we didn't. My dad talked his mom in this was during the Depression. He talked his mom into allowing him to join the National Guard when he was 17.
Wow.
Said he was 19. She signed the papers, and then they immediately activate him, for World War II. And I said, Kathy and I were dating and had a great high school and college, and my dad was a waist gunner on B-17s, during that time period. So very different, situation, very different period in our history. So he stayed in the service after the war. And so I spent 6 years in London. My dad didn't like the base school, so he put my brother and I in a British boys' school. So we wore the little uniforms and
I
things.
love it.
And we lived in London. All of my friends were English. I was really an English kid. My brother was captain of the cricket team.
Wow.
Wow.
We came back to Fort Smith, Arkansas, where my family's always been from. And then he got into recruiting, so he didn't have to travel anymore. They didn't really care where he lived. So we spent that time, but it was a great experience. And they were very strict in their education over there. I was in constant fear that the headmaster was going to cane me for something.
Oh, wow, that is strict. That is strict.
Or the long ruler. I've seen that too.
Exactly. So I came back, and I was an English kid when I got
Drinking
back here.
tea.
Hilarious.
No, I started drinking tea when I can't remember not drinking tea.
Really?
With lots of milk and sugar.
Oh, the English way.
And
Yeah,
crumpets. Did you have crumpets?
Oh, yeah.
She's big on crumpets.
I am. Well, I didn't realize this in England. There's a big rivalry between, some of the areas in England if cream comes first or not on your crumpet. So you have clotted cream and jam, and people drive around with bumper stickers that say cream first.
I mean, we got cheese dip over here. They got cream over there.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
And that's really good. The clotted cream and jam, and it is the argument as to which comes first on the biscuit.
It's hilarious.
It is.
It really is.
So you've got a background with a military family. Talk about some of the issues you're dealing with right now. Women's veterans issues?
Yeah, we're really interested in that because, and we've teamed up with a number of different, Democrats. This is a very bipartisan effort, but the military complex for taking care of veterans was built for men, because that's really who served in the military until
true.
not too long ago. Now, though, we've had a number of women serving. The numbers are way up. They have been now for quite a period of time. But we just didn't have the facilities to take care of them as they rotated out. And so we've worked really hard to bring the VA up to standard. It wasn't too long ago if a woman was in a VA hospital, then somebody walk up to her and say, "Are you looking for your husband?" So this is not the case now. We've worked really hard to overcome those kind of stereotypes and make sure that women, have the specialists that they need, have the facilities that they need, and that's really a good story.
Yeah, very
That's wonderful.
good.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that we've worked really hard on that's in that space is that what we're finding is that women that served in the Gulf Wars are developing breast cancer at a much, much earlier age than the general population, a really severe form of breast cancer. So again, working together on the committee, we passed legislation, able to introduce legislation, get it passed to make sure that they were being screened at a much earlier age,
Mm-hmm.
that was taken care of. And then two, that the equipment that they were using was the best equipment. And then finally, making sure that if they did develop the disease, that they would get the best care, of any place in the world.
Great.
So those are things that we can be very, very proud of.
Absolutely. Something not fun to talk about, but suicide prevention is also something that you're dealing with.
It is. That's another area that we haven't seen a lot of change. I was in the House for 9 years. Now I've been in the Senate for 12. I've always been involved in veterans issues, and the number's still about the same, about 20 a year. So a couple of years ago, we passed a bill that allowed us to take the groups in the community that do a really good job. Only about 6 or 7 of the 20 actually are in the VA system. So there's a lot of people outside, giving them small stipends so that they could work with veterans and then capture them, get them in the VA system. But they also do a very, very good job, regarding suicide. So it's something that we're working on, and it's just an ongoing activity. The rate is much too high, and sadly, we haven't figured out exactly what we need to do, although we're doing better. The other thing that we're doing now is measuring. Our measurement always in government is how much money we're spending on the program, not whether or not it's working or not.
Right.
And so now we come out and are putting metrics, some different programs involved in veteran suicide prevention. Some are doing very, very well. Others aren't. We need to plus up the ones that are and probably get rid of some that don't.
I actually recently saw a graph, and it was percentages of different things that take people's lives, such as, suicide or fentanyl. And it was that graph versus how much the media talks about them. And, one of the big ones, for example, of course, with the pandemic was COVID was way up there, but compared to veteran suicide, basically the mortality rates for what these diseases were did not match the media coverage.
Right.
And so it's so important to talk about those things.
It is, and I think especially with veterans, there's kind of, you join the service and you consider yourself kind of a tough person, and the kind of people that join the service, I think, are maybe, a little bit slanted that way, and these are things that you don't talk about. And you don't talk about it while you're serving because you don't want it to make it such that it would negatively impact your career. And then I think that carries over after you get out of the service. So, just there's a variety of different reasons why veterans are having the problem. There's really no rhyme or reason, though, in the sense that a lot of veterans that commit suicide have never been deployed. You'd think, well, these are people that went over and,
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are older.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a whole lot of factors that go into it. But the good news is that we're working really hard and to try and figure it out and make a difference. Our veteran service organizations, the American Legions, the VFW, all of those are doing a really good job, disabled veterans, to be helpful. And this is one of those things that we're just going to have to continue work. I do think it's important, and we are spending a lot of money. We are spending a lot of time and effort but it really shows, that society, the people of the United States realize that this is something that's important, that is worthwhile, and we need to be doing those things. And hopefully we'll continue to do that and not give up until we significantly reduce those numbers.
That's wonderful.
Obviously, we hope for great success with that. We don't have too much time left. Let's get a couple fun things in here. In Stuttgart, Arkansas, they have the Duck Call World Championships, and that is the rice and duck capital of the world.
It is. We've got all kinds of ducks. That's right in the middle of the migrating bird flyway, the duck flyway, and so Arkansas is number one in rice production in the United States.
Does that surprise you, Sophie?
Really?
51% of the rice in the country. And so it's nice in the sense that, there's lots of birds. And if you're a duck hunter, you enjoy it. On the other hand, it's really vital because what happens is the birds need the energy. You can imagine, you're flying, from the northern hemisphere down into the southern.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need energy. And so they stop there and, fill up and get the energy they need to
okay.
go on and keep going south.
You hunt and fish as well.
I do.
Which do you prefer?
I like to fish
Why?
because there's a big old lake where I live, and I like to go out there and just, it's just peaceful. And
Yeah, I look at it as a
it's-
recharging thing. I mean, isn't it just you get out there? I don't even need to catch a fish, honestly.
no, I'm with you 100%. You get out there and it's quiet, and we talk about not seeing the stars in Washington and just urban areas, but you don't see anything else either. You don't notice the birds, you don't notice all of the stuff that's going on out there.
Yeah.
And so it's just a great place to hang out and occasionally catch a fish. Although I think, by the time my son-in-law likes to fish, by the time you get the boat and you get the equipment, each fish.
Yeah. I mean, costs quite a...
You don't
Right,
figure out
yeah.
how much that fish costs.
People used to always ask me, what senator would you want to have a beer with? And I would always say John Boozman, because he tells the best stories. And Lane would always tell me, yeah, he doesn't drink beer, though.
I thought it would be, but I might be prone to pay the bar tab or something.
No. But you
Well, that would be a win-win too.
No,
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
you've just had so many great travels. I mean, is it because of this position that you've met so many kind of famous people and had so many experiences?
Well, I think that, and I just I kind of jump out and do different things. My wife is so good and she puts up with a lot. So, one day I'll come home. Literally, when I decided to run for Congress, I had no intention of doing that at all. I just came. It was a special election situation. I just literally came home one day and told Kathy I wanted to run for Congress. I thought
Really?
she was going to tell me to go cut
Yeah.
the yard, or something like that. But and then another day I came back and told her that I thought we needed to buy a farm and be on a farm and
And she went
put all
along
the
with
girls in
this?
4-H.
I do want to say you did raise Hereford cows.
Yeah, I raised polled Hereford cows.
I know I was pronouncing
It's
that
funny
wrong.
that when I decided to run for Congress, I won the nomination. I got through the primary. Dick Armey, who you all remember, came down, and Dick Armey was a very colorful guy, and he was a Texan, and so I was taking bulls to the bull test at Oklahoma State, and what you do is you select the best, kind of the best potential future bulls,
Mhm.
for your herd, and then also to sell to others.
Right.
We had registered cows, so I was trying to explain that to him. And finally he looked at me and said, "John," he said, "I don't know about this." He said, "I don't know what you're doing, but if you're an expert on bull, you're going to do great in Congress."
I love it.
See, that's why you want to have a beer with him right there.
Yes.
I saved my most controversial question for last because
Uh-oh.
I love this. Barbecue, is that big in Arkansas?
Mm-hmm. Barbecue is like cheese dip.
Oh, really? So
We got lots of barbecue.
is there any specific places someone should go, or is that not okay to say?
Well, I don't want to get into.
See,
there's
this is
so much-
controversial.
there's
I'm
so
telling
much.
Don't make anybody angry, but go ahead and generally describe.
No, and it's kind of how you like it. If you like it wet or dry or all of those kind of things. But yeah, there's a lot of barbecue. There's a lot of Mexican food that's made in Arkansas too.
Any last questions, Sophie? Because I just told him I had my last question. I don't want to lie to a sitting senator here.
No more questions. I feel like we could sit here all day and lots to share. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, Senator, we talked about givers and takers earlier, and I want to thank you for giving your time today on The Elephant in the Room.
Well, thank you so much for having me and being one of your illustrious guests. I feel honored to be in the studio with you all and talking about lots of different issues and just kind of life. That's a good thing.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
Every other week, we interview senators to show you they are real human beings and let you hear them in long form where we actually let them talk. Not going to get that many other places. So if you'd like to sit back and be notified when a new episode comes out, all you have to do is hit the follow, subscribe, or like button. Your app should let you know when we have a new release and who our guest is. The Elephant in the Room is brought to you under the direction of U.S. Senator John Boozman of Wyoming. The man who had the vision to bring this to life and oversees it is Arjun Modi. Carly Rapp came up with the name and powered through all obstacles to bring it to you, and Elena Seiler heads up the team behind the scenes. Thanks for listening, and until next time, this has been The Elephant in the Room.